Wah-ho, wah-hee, I'm a pointless scene with a ha-ha-ha and a hee-hee-hee, yes, pointless, that's for me. Jerry Taylor is indirectly responsible for all this and a lot of the other issues that will arise in the film. Originally, the transition was going to be an action scene of the Romulan attack and the Enterprise saving the day, but she pointed out that would be a bit predictable. Moore and Braga latched onto this, and so we've abandoned predictableness for total randomness instead. In this case, stick them on a sailing ship and give Worf his promotion finally, and then have Geordi declare a jihad. The promotion is completed with stupid ritual that we have never seen before or since.
I'll never make it. No one ever has.
So much for not making things predictable, but at least we got to blow a chunk of the budget on a boat.
Computer, remove the plank!
Wow, that's just being a dick. And I'm directing the next movie too, Dorn! So while the members of Her Majesty's Naval Barbershop Quartet point and laugh at Worf, Data considers what is humor and tosses Dr. Crusher into the water. While Riker's douchebaggery brought laughs and cheers, the only response from everyone else is a look like he just whipped out little Data. Picard and Riker ignore all this, bravely leading the crew out by staring out the back of the ship, when a message comes in for Picard. He's upset by it and leaves. Soon after, there's that distress signal, except instead of the action-packed attack with the Enterprise arriving to save the day, the ship shows up now that it's all done and almost everyone is dead. But at least we got to humiliate Worf. This is when we notice the whole uniform thing for the first time. You see, the costume people were concerned that the TNG uniforms were never meant to be seen on a giant screen, the zippers would be visible and all that. And God forbid we should see something as practical as that. So they figured they'd use the DS9 style uniforms. Problem is, there wasn't money in the budget for everyone to get new uniforms, so they decided to mix and match. Okay. Then they went a step further by mixing and matching on the same person. Sometimes Riker would just decide to head back into his quarters and change from one uniform style into another, apparently just to test which would be more slimming. I mean, it's nothing to get excited about, but it's curious no one seemed to realize that not only did they not get rid of the original problem, they added entirely new ones of having mismatching uniforms that don't fit, because the cast had to borrow from the existing DS9 uniforms, and amusingly, wearing entirely new uniforms that would be used on the screen for less than 10 minutes of this 2-hour film. Anyway, they find Soren and the body of a Romulan to move forward the A-plot, while on the Enterprise, Data moves forward the B-plot by reflecting upon the incident with Crusher and deciding to finally put in the emotion chip. So he goes to get part of his model car kit and has Geordi put it on his head. Down in 10 Forward, Guinan offers them a nice thirst-quenching glass of ranch dressing, which causes Data to experience his first emotion, hatred towards the drink. Anger, hate, pleasure at the death of another. Emotions are sure working out well for our android friend. Picard shows up as well to talk with Soren, who wants to return because of his experiment, but Picard says that they have to finish their investigation. Soren then delivers the most random remark possible that miraculously manages to get Picard to at least consider this.
They say time is the fire in which we burn.
Usually when your villain can pull this kind of emotional blow to someone, it's because of special insights, empathic abilities, black magic. Since Soren has none of these, he just knows it because he read the script. And don't tell me he actually does, because if so, why does he need to torture people for information if he can read minds? But despite this, the analysis continues, and Worf finds the Romulans were looking for trilithium, a nuclear inhibitor that theoretically could stop all fusion within a star. Just like in theory, you could destroy the ocean by launching dry sponges at it. While discussing this scene, Moore and Braga get into the issues around technobabble as well. I talked about the general Trek approach back in Prototype to this, so now's probably as good a time as any to look at its problems as well. Technobabble is irksome for 3 reasons. First, it's used to pad episodes, and the worst kind of padding is babbling dry nonsense. Second, it perpetuates the layman's notion that science is a form of magic that they could never understand. And finally, it betrays the idea of good television. Generally, if someone's backed into a corner, they have to fight their way out, talk their way out, or think their way out. The worst way out is the Deus Ex Machina. Yet with the technobabble approach, we have literal Deus Ex Machina, God in a machine, in that the machine can fix every problem. Now, it's great to think your way out, but when you use technobabble like that, or you use ridiculous science, like the alien is mostly water so throw a sponge at it to win the day, you are shortchanging the audience. Opinions may differ, but things like Best of Both Worlds, where the teching the way out victory plan is presented rather simply and directly, works for me because it's obvious what's happening. Try to turn off the weapons? Try to turn off the power? Well, just try to make them sleep. That's thinking your way out to me, rather than escaping thanks to something that required the scriptwriter to insert tech into his script. Now contrast that with what happens later in this film. So Data and Geordi head over to look for trilithium, Data laughing it up over a joke he recalled Geordi telling 7 years ago. They find a hidden room which Data opens while making a series of jokes and puns and Mr. Tricorder. Well, Moore and Braga admitted that they were trying to make Data really annoying in this scene, so I guess no matter what you can say about this movie, this is one scene where they definitely did not fail. Jesus Christ, are you looking for a trilithium or plotting to kill Batman? Well, Sauron shows up as they examine this unusual probe and decide to just kick Geordi's ass and threaten Data, who cowers in fear. Meanwhile, Picard is looking through his Facebook portable when Troy walks in. Picard starts crying, not something you normally see from an action hero, although it might be understandable. Remember that happy boy Renee and family, the end of which showed him watching the stars and dreaming about the future? Well, he's dead. Oh, and not just dead, burned to death. Probably the most horrific death that doesn't involve zombies, a sarlacc, or that death machine from In the Penal Colony. Particularly odd was that Moore wrote both, so he created Renee and then chose for him to burn, meaning Moore is probably a Calvinist. Picard's weeping is interrupted when the sun in the system begins collapsing on itself. It seems that Sauron has the trilithium and has turned it into a weapon that can destroy stars, which opens up for a chance for another Mel Gibson joke, I suppose. The star's breakdown releases a shockwave that will destroy the entire system, so Riker and Worf head over to bring back Geordi and Data, only to get into a firefight with Sauron. Hey, look at that destruction. Looks like we finally got a gun that has a chance of killing somebody. During that, a Klingon key of prey decloaks for Sauron's escape, and because Data's too scared to help save Geordi, he's kidnapped by Sauron. The others get back to Enterprise just in time to escape. On board the key of prey are Lursa and Bador, the backup villains of the movie, hoping that Sauron will give them a weapon to conquer the Klingon Empire. I know some have wondered why I haven't covered their backstory beyond a show tune, and the reason is because their role is trivial. Sure, they are responsible for what has happened, but anybody could fill their role, and the story wouldn't be changed. Hell, Lursa in particular is so minor and generic that you could plug in anybody, and you wouldn't even need to change her dialogue.
They knew it was on the observatory. If the Enterprise hadn't intervened, they would have found it.
They did not find it, and now we have a weapon of unlimited power.
No, Lursa. I have the weapon. And if you ever want me to give it to you, I would advise you to be a little more careful. Set course for the Viridian system. Maximum warp.
Set course for Viridian.
Did you get anything from the human?
No. His heart just wasn't in it.
The Federation starship is entering the system.
What? On viewer. We're still cloaked. They cannot see us.
On screen.
Captain, what an unexpected pleasure.
It is very important that I speak with Sauron.
I'm afraid the doctor is no longer aboard our ship.
Then I will beam to your ship and you can transport me to Sauron.
Can't trust them. For all we know, they killed Geordi. They might kill you, too.
We did not harm your engineer. He's been our guest. As Sauron and the Klingons head to Viridian, Crusher has finally determined who he is, a fellow Elorian survivor of the Borg like Guinan who wants to return to the Nexus. The Nexus is a place where there is no passage of time and everything exists to make you happy, and is exactly the kind of thing you would expect to see fluttering around outer space smashing up spaceships in a science fiction piece. Sauron then prepares to interrogate Geordi about trilithium.
As you may or may not be aware, I am an Elorian. Some people call us a race of listeners.
Oh, don't tell me that you are really good at backgammon.
Listen.
Oh, damn it, that was my other guess. Meanwhile, Picard gives a log entry about Data's emotion chip, which rather effectively betrays that Moore and Braga were a bit ingrained into writing this as a TV episode. The purpose of the captain's log on the show was to quickly dump exposition onto the audience so you could move ahead with your limited runtime. In the previous 5 films, a captain's log was used to establish what a ship was up to the first time we saw it. and any other time it was to provide Kirk with the chance to share his thoughts with the audience. Picard apparently used it all up sniveling earlier because it's just another info dump over the same stock footage shot we saw for 7 years.